Hello, my fellow mortgage broker community. My name is Marc Summers, and I'm the president of AIME, and want to welcome everyone to another edition of our weekly sales meeting. Now, the topic I really want to discuss today is having to deal with your attitude and how it basically controls everything. Attitude is the key, pretty much in my opinion, of everything that we do. So first off, I would like to give you a few points and maybe give you a few tips afterwards. Point number one I want to talk about is how attitude directly correlates with your effort. Now, just to kind of give you a little insight of myself, I've been coaching high school sports since I was 21 years old, and I'm currently a high school basketball coach in my local area. Two things that I preach to them. Number one is obviously attitude at all times, and then it's attitude and effort. Because once you have those two things combined, nothing can really stop you. And they correlate with each other because if you have a good attitude, you're willing to give maximum effort. You just can't have a good attitude and don't give any effort. They go hand in hand with each other. So I use that same analogy with my staff and anyone I speak to in the mortgage industry is that your attitude directly correlates with your effort. It starts with attitude, and then you can finish it off with the effort. And when you combine those two things together, you have gold there. And especially in our mortgage community, listen, we have every right, and sometimes you just feel like kind of giving up just because the market is so great right now, but there's a lot of pressure on us. Keep a good attitude and keep giving that maximum effort. And I'm telling you guys, we're going to come out on top. You're building yourself a book of business for your life. All right. So point number two is this. Is you control the situation. And what I mean by that is we can go into any situation we want, and it has to start out with attitude. So when we're in any type of situation, if you have a good attitude, it seems to go much better because your attitude just spreads amongst everyone who's involved with it. So if you're speaking to your borrower and you have a good attitude, it's going to reflect on them and it's going to reflect right back on you. Now, I also want to talk to you at the same time about, yes, how attitude, you can make the situation you want, but use it to your advantage as well. I mean, I could sit here and give you examples all day long of things, but I'm going to tell you this right now. You have person A who calls, let's just say it's a title company, and they're complaining at the title company. I mean, how willing is that title company going to be to help them, right? But then you have someone who has a great attitude and knows things are a little messed up at times. Now they call that title company, and they're speaking to the title company. It's a good attitude. They're going to want to do more things for you. So that's how you use your attitude as an advantage to you, and you control your entire situation when you have a good attitude and a no-nonsense attitude in terms of, listen, you're not going to let things get you down. You're not going to get too upset about things. But if you keep that attitude going, and remember that we are helping people make some of their biggest financial decisions, whether it's giving them a lower rate or getting them into their dream house right now, you have to have that attitude of, man, I'm helping this person and I can't wait to continue to help them because they're going to be a client for life. And when you have that good attitude, it just spreads like wildfire. The third point I want to make is this: is be a leader with your attitude. Be a leader because you control every part of this situation. You control every part of the loan process. So be a leader to your title agent, be a leader to your loan processor, be a leader to your account executive, be a leader with a good attitude at all times. And then it all comes together. Because if you are let's just say it, if you're not a good leader and always upset, no one wants to work for you. Okay. And it's contagious through the entire process. So whether you're a one-man shop, be a leader to everyone who touches that loan, or whether you have a shop that has 300 loan officers and processors and loan officer assistants, be a leader to them with great attitude because it flows downhill. So we have a lot on our shoulders here, and all those points I just spoke to you about all start with attitude. You have a great attitude, it's infectious, it's contagious, and it just trickles downhill, and it makes the entire... It makes our job so much easier and better, and you wake up in the morning wanting to do better. All right, so let me give you 3 tips, and I kind of said this before, but your attitude is contagious. Okay, think about that at all time. My attitude is going to be contagious throughout this entire process, whether it's good or bad. So let me just ask you a simple question: do you want this process and each loan to be a good process or a bad process? I mean, we all know the answer to this one. It's a good process, so your attitude is contagious. All right. Second point that I would like to, or maybe second tip that I'd like to give to you is we don't have it as bad as we think we do. Okay, so we got to cut this negativity at times and realize that we are in great situations right now. Yes, I've seen loans close in 4 days. Well, guess what? It may take 7. It may take 9. It may take 22. We're still in a great situation, and it's not as bad as you think. You could be with a big bank closing loans in 90 days. Good luck trying to build a book of business that way and sleep well at night. listen, we don't have it as bad as we think we do. We have to cut that negativity and move forward and adapt to what is the current situation each day. And I'm telling you, each day it's going to continue and continue to change. Tip number 3, you have to have that mentality and that attitude of we can change the game with how we proceed with business, and especially with our attitude. Let people know that, yes, going the broker way is the better way, and be infectious about it. Have a great attitude about it, and then it's just going to continue to change the game. You know, us mortgage brokers, we're changing the game right now, and we're going to continue to change the game. And, you know, the better attitudes that we have that kind of cut the nonsense out, make it a great choice to be with a broker, make it fun to be with the broker. I'm telling you, we're going to change this entire game. All right. So that's my take on attitude. I can't express to you. I use it in every aspect of my life. Everything that I do in life, I always control 2 things. Number 1, which is 1A, is your attitude. And then it slowly goes right into effort. Okay. So your attitude and effort are the only 2 things we can control in life. And if you can control both of those, and it starts with your attitude, we are going to be so successful. It's not even funny. So just want to give you a little bit of a legislative update. The president signed 4 executive orders over this past weekend due to the fact that they cannot, they're deadlocked at a coronavirus stimulus package, another one. So they're deadlocked at that. If you want more information, please visit aimegroup.com and you'll have more detailed information there. Okay, so next, I want to introduce Rene Rodriguez. He always does a great segment, so I'm going to throw it to Rene. Thanks, Rene.
Thanks, team. So let's talk about attitude here for a minute. And that can get boring and talk about how psychology says that an attitude is a psychological construct that has an emotional and mental entity to it and really just comprises who we are. But that gets kind of boring. So let me ask you a different question. Do you consider yourself being a positive person or having a positive attitude or maybe a negative attitude? Which one are you? Now, if I were to look at your social media, which one would I know that you are? Sometimes our social media tends to give away how we view the world. So I want you to think about this thing about positive, negative. Unfortunately, it's just not that simple. There's a lot more to understanding attitude. In fact, there's a great book that I want to recommend called It Takes What It Takes from Trevor Moawad. Now, Trevor was just named the #1 brain coach, brain sports psychologist, if you will, by Sports Illustrated. It's really fascinating, really cool. I recommend you get the book. But in that book, he talks about having a neutral mindset or a neutral attitude. And so I'm not going to get into all that. I kind of want to simplify it here. Let me ask you a question. Do people like being around you? That's kind of how I like to break it down. Do I like being around you or not? Because if you're giving me energy, then I want to be around you. If you're sucking me dry of energy, guess what? I don't want to be around you. What else does that apply to? Yes. It applies to all of your clients, all of your real estate referral partners, anybody that wants to work for you. They're looking at this unconscious, unattainable, intangible thing, like what's it like to be around you? And so I want to give you a couple different things to think about here for this week, especially when we're in an age where people are trying to control our attitudes or really control how we see the world. If you look at this over here, we all want to generate results of some sort. And if we understand that results, all our results come from our behavior, right? And I promise you that says behavior. And our behaviors lead to our results. And if we don't like the results that we're getting, we typically try to change our behavior to get a different result. Now, this equation is not new. It's definitely not new. But there's a problem with it. Because we also know that if we want to change our behavior, how do we typically respond to behavior change? Do we accept it and embrace it? Or do we typically push it away? Yeah, we typically push it away. So this little equation doesn't actually lead to new results. It actually leads to resistance, right? For some reason, our brain likes to resist change. And so if we think about the results we're trying to get, right now, all of you right now are facing new challenges. Most of you are facing an increase in business, a demand for better service, slowing turn times, all sorts of things that are putting a demand on your business which require you to change. Now, how you approach that change is going to be determined by how you view the world. And how you view the world is basically your attitude. And so in this model here of trying to change behavior to get results, I want you to think about it differently. I don't want you to try to change behavior. I want you to ask yourself a question. of why did you behave that way in the first place? What was it that caused this behavior to drive those results? Because I'll tell you, if you're approaching behavior change without addressing what's going on underneath, it's not going to be all that successful. And so what ends up driving behavior are our beliefs, how we view the world, your attitude. Think about it for a minute. If you have this attitude that everybody's negative, people are trying to stab you in the back, that Mondays suck. I mean, if you have the Mondays suck posts, I kind of know who you are. Or if you can't wait for the weekend, I kind of know what your attitude is. And I kind of know if you're giving me energy or not. I want the people that wake up on a Monday and can't wait to talk about what's going on. And guess what? Your real estate partners, they need that as well. And so the way that you view the world, what your beliefs are going to determine how you behave. And how you behave is going to determine what kind of results you get. And so do you see how kind of all of that plays together? So let's take a look at a client experience for a minute. You're talking to a real estate professional. And when you enter that office, they're going to look at your products. No, because you guys all have basically the same products. What are they looking at? Do they like you? Do they trust you? Do they get along? And those decisions are made in a split second. They're made by how you shake hands, how you approach the room, a third party, what they have said about you. But a lot of those decisions are actually made unconsciously. They don't even know why. They just like you for some reason. And guess what? All of those things come down to how you look at the world, because the way that you look at the world manifests in your body. If you're hunched over, looking at the world like this, or just have these little looks, you're communicating messages to people of just how you are. And so this question of attitude really comes down to a question of belief. But here's the scary part. Most of the beliefs that drive your attitude are unconscious. They were developed or instilled into you by your parents. Maybe you had positive parents. Maybe you had super negative parents. Maybe your grandparents, your brothers and sisters. Who knows who was around you? But you need to take inventory of who is affecting who you are, how you view the world, because the way that you view the world is going to determine your success with how you hire, how you recruit, how you deal with referral partners, and how you deal with your clients. Those are the little things that separate us. So I want to leave you with a very powerful tool. This tool is what we call the courage scale. Now I have a small one here in my hand, but I'm going to put a picture up right here. Now this courage scale, you've probably, if you know me, you've heard me talk about it, but it's one of the most powerful tools that we have in our system. And it was developed by a guy by the name of Dr. David Hawkins. He was a world famous psychologist, psychiatrist, and medical doctor. And for, I don't know, it's like 19 years ago, he left that entire practice to study these different states of being or these different states of emotion. Now, when you look at him, you see at the bottom, you start at death. Death is at a 0 because he assigned a logarithmic number to him, saying how much energy or how much vitality was given off when we're in that state of being. So death is at a 0. We're not real influential when we're dead. And you look at shame and guilt are at 20 and 30. And as you work your way up, because 20 and 30, shame made sense, because I know when I played basketball, all my coaches use shame and guilt to try to motivate me. You suck! Run faster! And I'd try to run faster, dribble the ball off my foot, and they'd put me on the bench and give me that ultimate motivator of, you're pathetic, right? No, it's supposed to motivate me. But actually, I was so below that line and so close to death that it sucked. I wanted to get away from it. Now, the thought behind it was if you put enough shame and guilt on somebody, they're going to run away from it. That's really not how it works. It's a very short-term fix. But then you look above the scale at apathy, 50, grief, 75, anger 150. Now, that didn't make much sense to me because I'm like, man, I'd almost rather be apathetic at 50 than to be crying and scared and angry. But if you think about it, think about an apathetic person or an apathetic attitude. Somebody just kind of gave up. Trying to move them, motivate them, inspire them. It's like trying to move through molasses. But you think about somebody who's angry. You can relate to anger. You can connect with anger. Anger sometimes causes the need to want to change. And so when we think about that piece and getting close to that line of 200, which is the line of courage, that is a line that we call the dividing line between the taking side of life, below that line, and the giving side of life, above that line, in openness, willingness, reason, logic, joy, peace, enlightenment. All of those things that give us energy. And so when we think about it from that perspective, where do you fall? Are you somebody that gives or are you somebody that takes? When you walk in the room, are people excited that you're there? Or when you walk in the room, do you notice that people just kind of get quiet? We've all had that person, you're having a fantastic day and the person calls you on the caller ID and you see their name and you're just like, ugh. Immediately all your energy goes right below the line. Or maybe that person that you're having a horrible day and they call you in the caller ID and all of a sudden your energy goes up. That's being above the line. Because the way that we view the world comes through in our body, in our words, how we are, and the energy that's either giving or it's taking. I want to finish with one final story. I was presenting this to a group of loan officers, and they left. They took a pile of these cards with them, and they were going to meet the number one real estate team in this state. Actually, it was a small Midwestern state. And they were a little bit confused, but they walked in, and the real estate agent team brokers looked at them and said, "What's wrong with you guys?" And they looked at each other. It was a mother and son team, and they said, "You know what?" And he started explaining the Courage Scale card. He put it on the table. He said, "Well, there's a scale that we just were shown. It was talking about energy that's above the line and below the line, people giving and taking energy." And halfway through his really horrible presentation of this, she grabs the card and she goes, "This is what I've been talking about. So many of the people that we've been working with are so below the line, but for our customers, we need to work with people that are above the line." They're thinking service, right? That's the value proposition of being above the line, being a giver. And if somebody's trusting you with their relationship, a real estate agent is trusting you with their relationships, you want to be above that line, and you want to have a tangible way of showing that it's measurable. And so what I invite you to do is go to couragescale.com. You can download your free version of this. I did a TED Talk on this. You can watch a longer version of it. I'll make sure that the AIME group has a link for it and all that sort of stuff. But get this, print it off, learn how to talk about it, but more importantly, decide where your attitude is so that you can better serve people and you can better invoke a positive response when you enter the room. As I always ask at every meeting, how productive were you this week? What number are you going to put inside your productivity box? So I want to thank you again every week for coming to the weekly sales meeting. Back to you, Philly.
Thanks, guys. Do y'all remember those elementary school signs? Really big, colorful ones on the walls that said, "Attitude is everything"? It hasn't changed. Your attitude impacts every part of the loan transaction. It impacts your mental health, it impacts your team, it impacts your borrower's experience. We focus so much on why brokers are better, and a huge part of that is being able to provide an experience to consumers that is unparalleled in the industry. The only way that you can continue to do that is by focusing on the positive. There's way too much going on. Your pipelines are busting at the seams. Focusing on a single negative incident and letting that overtake your entire day is only going to impact your pipeline in a negative way. Focus on the positive. Your attitude is what's going to allow your consumers to have a positive experience through their current transaction and also open up potential referral business for you in the future. If you focus on the negative, you're going to impact your partners negatively. You're not going to get the help that you're looking for. Quite frankly, you're just going to stop things in their tracks. Focus on the good and keep things moving. A big part of the reason why we believe brokers are better is also because they know their guidelines better than anybody else. There is not a loan officer in any other channel that can compete with the knowledge that we've seen in the broker channel. We brought on a new partner. Mortgage Currency is brand new to the Brokers Are Better network, and they help you do just that. They've got updates from every company out there, the FHA, VA, USDA updates, NMLS, CFPB, all of it, everything that you can think of. They've got updated guidelines and regulations that are available and searchable. We've seen a lot of conversations recently around wanting to talk about specific loan scenarios and understanding how changing certain variables within that loan scenario would impact the potential experience for the borrower overall. These guys can help you out. So check out Mortgage Currency. If you don't know them, we just announced that partnership yesterday. We've already seen massively positive response. Give them a look, especially if you're hiring and training new people right now and bringing them into the channel. This is a great way to make sure new loan officers and new LOAs fully understand the guideline requirements as set forth by Fannie, Freddie, and every other agency out there. Broker to Broker podcast this week, Stacy Catmull and David Monson from Altius Mortgage out in Utah. They're talking about consumer direct processes that they're able to implement into their regular day-to-day within the region that have really helped them expand their business. They focus on how communicating your value proposition helps expand your business both through referral conversations and through consumer direct tactics. There are so many people searching refinance my mortgage right now. Take advantage of some of these consumer direct opportunities and make sure that your name and your value proposition is out there and very clearly communicated online so that you can bring in all of these potential borrowers that are hearing everywhere how low rates are right now. The Bab Network Spotlight this week is TIO. If you are busy, which you all are, these guys are going to help you save time. It helps you pull credit, pre-qualify, and manage all of your follow-up. They're running very unique ads on Facebook on your behalf. All you have to do is set your parameters, set it, forget it. They'll run everything for you. It's going to help generate and pull leads into your pipeline and also manage that follow-up once they've started that initial communication with you. Give TIO a look if you haven't checked them out yet. Like I said, take advantage of some of those consumer direct opportunities. Facebook advertisements are a great way to do that. Last thing for the week, if you've missed a webinar that we've had recently, we know everyone is extremely busy right now. We upload all of our webinars to YouTube. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, go search it, AIME National. We'll drop a link in the comments so that it's easy for you to find as well. But we totally get it. Trying to fit in viewing live webinars and live content during the week is really tough. Check out our YouTube page if you haven't. We've got how to set up your Facebook page, how to solve your social media problem. There's full playlists on there that has a ton of information about pretty much everything we've done in the last 6 months since we really started leaning into creating video content for the AIME community. Check out YouTube. Go look at AIME National if you haven't had a chance to do so yet. That's all we have for this week. Don't forget, stay positive. We'll see you next week.